Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Hope everyone had a very happy Thanksgiving. I did a little bit of traveling myself, had a pretty good one. Joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. The holiday itself was low key. It was just our little Florida family here, and we hung out and ate and watched a little bit of football, both kinds,
Mhm.
on this Thanksgiving, and then we played some games and stuff, and then right the very next morning we had to be up early because we had a post Thanksgiving soccer tournament. So we were at that, and that was different watching the World Cup on the big screen outside at the tournament while like everybody was like playing games around it. So that was
Oh, that's cool.
what was a kind of fun experience. So yeah, all around good though. Good time. Nice and low key.
Speaking of which, big game for the U.S. tomorrow.
Yes.
Win, and you're in. But Iran is going to be. They're gonna turtle up here. They're gonna pack everybody in and do what they can to preserve a draw. It's going to be interesting to see a team that hasn't been great at scoring goals, doesn't really have that striker. The U.S. side
Hmm.
dealing with the pressure of winning a game in order to advance.
Yeah, and sometimes when you press forward too much, you open up those gaps for those counterattacks, and
Mhm.
and it's going to be tough. I think an early goal would do wonders. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's get into some NBA news. First of all, Kemba Walker looking like he's back. Right before we came on here, with the rumors been that Kemba Walker will be going to the Mavs. Coming from Mark Stein, who would know out of everybody out there, Mark definitely knows the Mavs for sure, for sure. And then we saw a move made right again right before we came on. Facundo Campazzo waived, which suggests something is coming. So definitely sounds like we're going to see Kemba Walker join the Mavs. What do you think about this move?
Yeah, it makes sense for Dallas. They've got to do something to get a little bit more bench production, and especially in a on-ball scoring role. Right now, it's Doncic, occasionally Spencer Dinwiddie, and nothing else for the Mavs, and they're really struggling with that. I don't think Kemba Walker will start. Some people have suggested maybe he'll take what was Jalen Brunson's role last year and start, and Dinwiddie will go back to the bench. I don't think that's going to be the play here, but I
Mhm.
do think you will see him play regularly and play a lot for Dallas. I just think it's going to be coming off the bench because they don't have a lot in terms of ball handling and bench scoring guards. Christian Wood can score, but he's a dependent player. He
Right.
relies on others to create shots for him for the most part. So, I like it. It's Kemba can still score. He showed that even, when the last couple years, even when he wasn't fully healthy. But we'll see. I'm very curious to see how this one plays out.
I hope it works out for him. He was a guy who dropped off very, very quickly. Went from being he was the guy for a while for Charlotte, and he
Yeah.
was so much fun and so exciting. And then it was like just one day, it was gone. Obviously, had some injury concerns and things like that. But would like to see him, find success here with Dallas.
Yeah, I agree. And the Mavs have had success with small guards in the
Yes, good
past
point.
too. So hopefully they have something they can do to get that going. I did think it was kind of funny. Jason Kidd and Luka Doncic were a little bit at odds. They were asked about lineups and the way they played
Mhm.
in their game against the Bucks, and Luka said, "I thought we played great in the third quarter with the lineup change, and I thought it went really well." And the Jason Kidd said we didn't get stops, and so that was
Mm.
kind of funny because they're obviously not necessarily on the same page there. And if you're worried about getting stops, I don't know that reserve lineups headed by Christian Wood and Kemba Walker are the way, but we'll see.
True, true. All right. Speaking of guys who have had success, Jeremy Grant. Pretty happy with the Blazers right now. Also happy with the whistles that he's been getting. Had just a few free throws. I believe that was against the Knicks the other night.
Yes.
Unbelievable. But Jeremy Grant is happy with the Blazers. The Blazers have overall been playing pretty good basketball. I think Grant's been successful. Yeah, and that was one of the questions coming in was, can Jeremy Grant go back to being like the second option on offense? Can he be that, or the third option, depending on who's really got it rolling on any given night? Because Damian Lillard's going to be number one, and so far so good for Portland and kind of making this work. And the fact that he's happy, I think that suggests that this is probably going to be a long-term commitment here with the Blazers sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. To reference what you said with the free throws, 21 of 28 at
Whew.
the free throw line against the Knicks, which is crazy for a wing. Those are normally like big man numbers, and normally that involves like some form of like hacka going on or something. With 44 points in that one, he's actually at 21.5 points per game. And here's what's interesting: his volume is down slightly from the Detroit years, the 2 years in Detroit, but his efficiency is way up, which says better weapons around him, right? He's drawing less attention, he's getting better looks, and those kind of things. What if you had to guess off the top of your head, what's he shooting from three?
I'll just guess. I'll say 34%.
48.2.
No, come on.
48.2% on 5.8 3-point attempts per game.
I didn't realize he was taking or making that many. Okay,
Crazy,
well that's not going to stay.
No, that'll dip for sure.
Right.
But even if it only dips down to 40%, that still would be a career high for him, and still pretty good. So yeah, Jerami Grant. Now, getting into what we generally focus more on here on this show is, so what is next for him? We heard when he was going to be traded that came with demands of you got to sign him to a contract extension. I guess not, right? Portland didn't do that immediately in a trade for Jerami Grant, but they can do that. When the time comes, they'll be able to sign him to an extension sometime in January. That restriction will lift where he can sign an extension beyond the extend in trade rules. So that I'd have to look at the exact date he was traded in July. But they didn't remember, it's not when the trade was told, because we knew this was happening at the draft, but it's when it actually happens is when those restriction dates are. But my guess is that's when they'll really get serious about extension talks with him. He's eligible to sign a 4-year, $112 million extension with Portland. I don't know that it'll go quite that high or quite that long, but maybe 2 years, maybe like a 2+1, something like that could make some sense. And but yeah, he's playing really, really well. He had high praise for all of his teammates there, and saying that he's playing with a lot of guys who can score, a lot of defenders on that team. And Portland's they're hanging in there without Damian Lillard and playing okay in the West.
Yeah, they are staying afloat for sure. All right,
one thing on that, if I can, real quick.
Sure.
I'd be okay if he didn't sign an extension, simply because, man, the free agent class is starting to look a little rough. And I think we're going to get a handful more guys picked off it before we get to the end of the year. So simply from let's make free agency fun, I wouldn't hate it if Jerami Grant reached unrestricted free agency this summer.
Which it just gives Portland that much more incentive to try to get something done sooner and not allow them to get to that point. But yes, you're right.
Jerami Grant, just to be fair, lock in the money when you can, man. If it's reasonable and good contract, get it done.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen in this league with injuries and things of that nature. TJ Warren targeting December 2nd for his season debut. It's been over 2. Yeah, it's been over 2 years now since we've seen TJ Warren on the basketball court. This would be a pretty big moment for him to finally get back out on the floor here for the Brooklyn Nets. This also goes a long way towards explaining. You remember the conversation over the summer, we kept saying, why is no one signing TJ Warren? What's going on here? Well, clearly he wasn't ready to go. And I'm sure that was a major factor here and why he didn't get more offers or bigger offers in free agency, because he certainly has the talent. Now he's got to go use the rest of the season to prove that not only could he get back, but can he get all the way back?
Yeah, and that's the key part, right? Is getting healthy and then staying healthy and staying on the floor. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He had that huge run in the bubble. Then he played briefly for the first 4 games of that next season, and then we have not seen him play since. It was December 29th, 2020, so almost 2 full years since we've seen TJ Warren play in a game. And he was off to a good start that season. Had that foot injury, has been rehabbing from it ever since. He's a guy he's 29 now, so still should have 3-4 good years left in him as long as he can get and stay healthy. But this is a guy who can score. Career over 50% shooter, 35 or almost 36% from 3. I don't know that he fixes a ton of what the Nets have issues with. I feel like they could use another real big in the rotation. And yes, TJ Warren's a forward, but he's a perimeter based guy. He's
Mhm.
not going to be a guy who's getting down inside, mixing it up very often. But hey, one more productive bench player for Brooklyn. Like last night, I think it was or I guess it was yesterday afternoon. I think they only played guards off their bench, if I have that correct. I believe, it was Edmund Sumner, Seth Curry, Joe Harris, and Cam Thomas. So I guess Joe Harris is kind of a wing, but all smalls. There are no bigs off the bench yesterday for the Nets. Now it was against the smaller Portland team, so kind of get it with that. But yeah, we'll see. But mostly good to see TJ Warren get back out there again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Will be good to see him out there. Speaking of returns, Pascal Siakam could be back in action tonight for the 7th seed Toronto Raptors. Though, I mean, right now everything is still very compact in both conferences, really a little bit more so in the West than in the East. But the 7th seeded Toronto Raptors have been dealing with the adductor strain. Would be nice to get him back in action and see if they can make a real push here, particularly with Philly so banged up. I think there's an opportunity now. Again, we have a lot of basketball to play, but I think there is an opportunity right now. If the Raptors can really start to make a push here, they may be able to get some separation and perhaps get themselves above that play-in line, and then see if maybe they can stick there here. And Siakam's return can help with that.
Yeah, big time. He hasn't played in 3 weeks with that groin injury, and he's a guy who's playing great. Back playing at another All NBA level before he got hurt. So I think he's now, you can feel really good about saying, established All NBA guy. This is not a one-time kind of thing where you feel like, oh yeah, he made it once, but he'll probably never make it again. And I do think we're going to see him do some stuff out there for sure for the Raptors. I think that'd be huge. So I am really looking forward to seeing him get back on the court, because I think they need him. And to your point, that kind of grouping behind Boston and Milwaukee is really pretty open in the East. I think Indiana, we all expect they'll come back to the pack eventually, some and kind of go down from there. But yeah, Toronto's got a chance now to maybe establish themselves as one of those top 6.
All right, another guy that's looking to return from injury, Bogdan Bogdanovic. No timetable currently, still out of action. Although I saw a report from just over a week ago that he was starting to do some 3-on-3 work, so at least getting a little bit closer. But this is a guy that, I mean, it's almost like we just forget about him with the Hawks, and he's a very talented player. There's even reports that the Suns may have had interest in getting him in a trade. So I think that this is going to be an important thing for the Hawks to get him back and healthy. But again, got to be able to get him back healthy and then stay healthy.
What's funny about the Suns maybe getting him is they originally drafted him, and they had him way back in the day, and then they traded his rights to Sacramento, and then he sat for a little bit there before actually coming over to the NBA. But yeah, he Nate McMillan was the one too. Wasn't just kind of speculation. It was Nate McMillan said hasn't taken part in a full practice yet, and that there's no timetable, and he doesn't want to put one on Bogdanovic. There was some thought he'd be back right around Thanksgiving. So if it's within the next few days, we're not really too far off that timeline. What I thought was interesting, and I didn't realize this until I dug into it a little bit more. He said that knee has been bothering him basically since he came to the NBA. He's had issues with it for that long, and then it really bothered him throughout his first year with Atlanta, and that's why I decided I just got to get this cleaned up this past off season. So that's tough, man, to be that productive as he has been and dealing with a knee soreness. And if you look back at the game logs, he has missed a decent chunk of time throughout his NBA time. So that seems to hold some water.
Well, hopefully this will get him right, and then he'll be good to go from there. Jimmy Butler could be back in action as well for the Miami Heat. See, that's the thing. When you get this kind of like this rush of injuries, you just give it a couple weeks. The next thing you know, you get all these returns to talk about, which of course are way more fun to talk about. But the Miami Heat currently sitting in the 10 seed. Definitely need Jimmy Butler back in action in order to make a pushback up the Eastern Conference. Yeah, they've been kind of struggling, but now they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Is this kind of the beginning of Miami to reinsert themselves into the playoff mix in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I think so. By the time Jimmy Butler gets back to it, it'll have been about 2 weeks that he'll have missed with the injury. So yeah, I do think this could be. I think the challenge for Miami is they've just got not great depth, I guess, is the best way. I'm trying to say that. I'm saying that very, very poorly, but they just don't have great depth. So I'm a little worried. I mean, they're putting a heavy load on Kyle Lowry already. Butler was playing a lot before he got hurt, and they've also got all these guys kind of playing up a position too, because they don't have a real 4 on the roster. Bam's had to carry a heavy load at the center spot because they haven't had a reliable second big. It's really been Dwayne Dedmon kind of, and that's it. And Dedmon's not playing bad, but that's a 10-15 minute a night guy. So yeah, I'm just a little bit worried that are they gonna have enough when it really matters, depth wise. Got to get these guys back, but even then, fully healthy, that roster seems short of 2-3 players to really be well rounded out.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. If they're fully healthy, they can be very, very good. But again, that seems to be a big if. Another injury. My goodness. Gordon Hayward, fractured shoulder. And there was a little bit of buzz about Gordon Hayward and his wife not being thrilled the way the injury was being reported. That was a thing as well, and wanted to make it clear, like, no, this isn't just like, this isn't a minor injury and he's just not being tough or something. Like, this is a serious injury and it's going to take some time to recover from, and wanted to make sure that the team put it out there correctly so he doesn't take heat for it.
Yeah, and I fully respect the idea of, hey, I'm gonna protect my husband, and because the team was putting it out there as a shoulder bruise,
right,
or contusion, and she was like, it's more than that, it's a fracture in his shoulder, and that's why he couldn't lift his arm. She said he played a game with the injury, which is that seems kind of crazy. And what's nuts about this is when he plays, he is still good. He's still the same good, productive player he has been basically for his entire career, minus his first year back after the broken leg with the Celtics, when that team was a mess and he was clearly finding his way back. But the next 2 years with Boston, or the next year with Boston, he was pretty productive. He's been productive when he's played with the Hornets. The challenge is his games played since the broken leg. So 1 that year, 72 the next year, and he probably should have missed more, and he played through when he probably shouldn't have.
Right.
52 the year after that. That's his last year in Boston. Then his 3 years with the Hornets, 44 games, 49 games, and 11 games so far this year. So just, that's the bump here is, and now he's 32. Will be 33 in March. So this is tough. I mean, this is a really rough one for the Hornets, because you're kind of sitting there. Anytime he's out, that's a $30+ million salary hole that you just can't fill.
Hornets currently sitting, they're well outside of the outside of the mixer. They're in 13th in the Eastern Conference. They're a game up on the Orlando Magic, 2 games up on the Pistons. If we're looking at things from the tank race side, is there any reason for them to hurry him back? I mean, it seems like it's a no, right? So
LaMelo Ball, no reason to rush either one of them back.
Yeah,
Cody Martin as well is also out. There's no reason for them to be pushing any of these guys to play. The downside is, at least like Orlando, Houston, Detroit, you've got a whole bunch of kids you can throw out there. They don't really have kids because they've been kind of sitting right around that play-in portion. But maybe this is the year you just say, you know what? Let's bottom this thing out. Let's really kind of, reset here. If we can get ourselves Victor Wembanyama, pair him up with LaMelo Ball, let's go. We've probably just saved basketball in Charlotte for, the next, half decade or more, and feel pretty good about that. But yeah, it's a mess in Charlotte for sure.
Well, to be fair, they are on a 2-game winning streak. They just beat the 76ers and the Timberwolves.
Well, the 76ers.
Yes. Right? Yeah. In air quotes. Right. But then again, I think is it tonight? They've got your Celtics?
Yeah.
It's tonight.
Yep. Boston's on back-to-back.
That will not go well for the Hornets. I would have to imagine.
Yeah, I kind of don't think so. Jason Tatum, who hates to miss games, did not play last night. He had officially was out with a sprained left ankle, but it was more well known as a rest day. And I don't know if you saw the piece. Adam Himmelsbach of the Globe got Tatum to like say on record, like, yeah, I agree a lot to take rest days. Like we'll plan it out weeks in advance, and then I'll be like, when it comes, he's like, nah, I'm playing. I'm not going to sit out tonight.
Right.
So they got him to take a rest day. So kind of a little bit worried what he may have in the holster for Charlotte tonight.
Yeah. That's that may not be a pretty sight. We'll see what happens there for the Hornets. All right. Last thing we've got, Patrick Beverley has one more game to serve on his suspension. That's going to be tonight against the Pacers. No undercurrents in this matchup with Buddy Hield and Miles Turner playing against the Lakers. No one's going to focus on that at all, of course. But Patrick Beverley, final game of his suspension. I don't want to be overly negative. They haven't really missed him on the floor. And part of that has been they've been playing, they've played the Spurs a couple of times and things, but we knew this was going to be the case when the suspension came down, that they haven't missed him a bunch on the floor. He wasn't providing a lot there. He was okay defensively, but has not been shooting well enough or giving you enough on the offensive end of the floor. It's more been what he's provided off the court, but got that suspension for shoving DeAndre Ayton. And it wound up being a 3-game suspension due to the number of suspensions he's received over the years. So it was a cumulative thing. And so the league decided to suspend him for 3 games, which there were some people upset with that. I was okay with it. I didn't think it made sense to me. Like, why? Okay. Yeah. Because he's done this stuff before, and people were real quick to say, oh, but what about this guy? But what about that guy and everything? And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I don't know. I just didn't think it was anything to be too upset over, with the explanation that, hey, it's because he's been a repeat offender.
That's exactly it for me. Is you're getting 1 game when you do that. Patrick Beverley knew he was getting at least one game as soon as he went in there and blasted Ayton in the back, and maybe Ayton embellished it. I've seen some people be like, how does little Patrick Beverley knock DeAndre in? Well, one, if you're not expecting it, like,
sure.
I mean, we're both dads with daughters, and like your daughter's still small and younger than mine. But when she was that little, like there was times she knocked me over, like, because I wasn't right? They come flying in, and it's like, they come off the top rope with the elbow smash. And you're down for the count, right?
The macho man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's when I look at the suspension, because I saw, well, this isn't fair. Jokic only got 1 game. Well, Jokic Markieff Morris was asking for something, not necessarily to get hit in the back, but was asking for something with what
you could argue Ayton was too there, though.
Yeah, and you could argue Ayton was
right,
too.
but there's more to this.
And I think with Ayton, it was if anything, you would expect it because it was Austin Reeves, right? That was on the ground.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just the totality of stuff with Beverley. There's always some kind of nonsense going on there. And, and then what was it? Was it the next game or the game after? Zach Collins, bloodied Russell Westbrook. That looked like a WWE cut too. Like he had that blood just pouring down. It was the point of the elbow and everything. Yeah. Yeah, and I think Collins got tossed, right? I think he got a flagrant 2 and tossed. Yeah, so so it's just, I mean, sometimes stuff happens, but yeah, I didn't have a big problem with Beverley getting suspended. I thought it was fine. And to your point, it hasn't exactly hurt the Lakers. If there's one spot you can miss a guy on that team too, it's the guard spot. They certainly should have enough of them to be good.
Yeah, Schroeder went into the starting lineup. A little bit of a surprise there in exchange for to replace Beverley. But in any event, that's what they went with. And he'll have his last game of his suspension tonight, which means he'll be back for later on this week against the Portland Trail Blazers.
And LeBron back over the weekend. We obviously were off for the holiday, but he came back and looked like LeBron and looked pretty good. And, so hopefully he can stay out there. They're starting to play better, right? They're figuring some stuff out, and
it helps playing the Spurs three times in like 6 days or whatever. Right? That does help.
Spurs with an 8-game losing streak right now, as they have all the good vibes from that surprising start for them are now washed away.
The tank is in high gear right now for the San Antonio Spurs, but they have been starting to play a little bit better, but they've got some stiffer tests ahead, so we'll see what they do there. But
Hey,
In any
win the
event,
ones you're supposed to. That's where you start. There hasn't been a lot of that the last couple of years either. So
they have gone out of their way,
wins.
especially last season. They have gone out of their way to find ways to lose games. You got the 3 wins that you need to get over the Spurs, and now you go on from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that about wraps things up for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. And, of course, go follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Trade season's coming up. We know it's going to be starting up in just a few weeks. Plus, of course, we've got all kinds of injury news and everything else going on around the NBA. So, again, make sure you are subscribing. Until next time, stay safe and see ya.